In a lush valley, surrounded by mountains and rivers, lay the kingdom of Sudavati. It was a prosperous land where people worked hard, yet, despite their wealth, the citizens were troubled. King Ananda, a wise and just ruler, noticed that his people were increasingly restless. There was constant fighting between families, an endless pursuit of wealth, and an overwhelming sense of dissatisfaction. King Ananda, deeply concerned, summoned his ministers. "Why do my people suffer despite all their prosperity?" he asked. "We must find a solution." One of the elders suggested, "Your Majesty, there is a wise monk who lives at the edge of the forest. He is said to have deep knowledge of the path to inner peace. Perhaps he can guide us." Determined to help his people, the king decided to seek out this wise monk, known as Bhante Siddhartha, who had once been a prince but left the palace in search of enlightenment. King Ananda set out on his journey to find Bhante Siddhartha. He traveled through forests and over mountains, accompanied by his trusted advisor and a few soldiers. As they ventured deeper into the wilderness, the king became more reflective, noticing the tranquility of nature. "Perhaps this silence holds the answer," he mused. After several days of travel, they found Bhante Siddhartha, meditating under a Bodhi tree by a serene river. The monk welcomed the king and his party with a gentle smile. "What brings you here, Your Majesty?" he asked. The king bowed respectfully. "My people are restless, despite having everything they need. We have wealth, food, and shelter, yet there is discontent in their hearts. I seek your wisdom to bring peace to my kingdom." Bhante Siddhartha closed his eyes for a moment, as if drawing wisdom from the earth beneath him. "The problem is not with what your people have, but with their desires. They are caught in the endless cycle of craving and attachment. I will teach you the path to peace, but you must be patient, for this is not a quick journey." The next day, Bhante Siddhartha gathered the king and his advisors under the shade of the Bodhi tree. "The root of all suffering is desire," he began. "I will teach you the Four Noble Truths, which are the foundation of understanding suffering and its cessation." He continued, "First, understand that suffering is a part of life. Whether it is physical pain, emotional distress, or dissatisfaction, suffering touches all. Second, the cause of suffering is attachment, our endless desire for more, whether it be wealth, power, or love. Third, there is an end to suffering. It is not eternal. It can be overcome by letting go of desire. Fourth, the path to end suffering is through the Noble Eightfold Path, a guide for living a balanced, mindful, and ethical life." The king and his advisors listened intently, absorbing the monk's teachings. King Ananda realized that his people's suffering stemmed not from their lack of material goods, but from their attachment to them. To illustrate his point further, Bhante Siddhartha told the king a story. "There was once a woman named Kisa Gotami who came to me after losing her only child. She was consumed by grief and begged me to bring her child back to life. I told her to bring me a mustard seed from a household that had never experienced death. She searched the entire village but could not find a single home that had not suffered loss. Finally, she realized that death and suffering are universal, and that clinging to the impossible only deepens our pain." King Ananda nodded, understanding the lesson. "Suffering cannot be avoided," he said, "but we can learn to accept it without attachment." Over the following weeks, Bhante Siddhartha taught the king and his advisors about the Noble Eightfold Path, explaining how to live a life of balance and wisdom. This path includes right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, he said. Each of these steps helps to cultivate inner peace and detachment from the endless cycle of desire. By practicing mindfulness and compassion, we can end suffering in ourselves and help others do the same. The king understood that if his people were to find peace, they needed to be guided toward a life of mindfulness, ethical living, and compassion. He vowed to spread these teachings across his kingdom. Upon returning to his kingdom, King Ananda began to implement the teachings of Bhante Siddhartha. He encouraged his people to practice mindfulness, reduce their attachments to material possessions, and cultivate compassion for one another. Temples were built where monks taught meditation, and the idea of living a simple, ethical life became the foundation of Sudhavati's culture. Over time, the people of Sudhavati began to change. Arguments between families lessened, greed was replaced by generosity, and an air of calm settled over the kingdom. The pursuit of wealth gave way to the pursuit of inner peace, and soon Sudhavati became known as the Kingdom of Tranquility. The story teaches that true peace and happiness do not come from external wealth or possessions, but from inner wisdom, mindfulness, and compassion. By letting go of attachment and practicing the teachings of the Buddha, we can end suffering and cultivate lasting peace within ourselves and the world around us.